Okay, how's it now?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, the lightsaber sound's gone.
Indeed.
Okay, it was my hard drive. My external hard drive was freaking out.
I hate it when that happens.
Yes.
We got all that content captured. It was pure gold. So, hey guys, Nerdarchy Dave here, for nerds, by nerds, you know, the Nerdarchy crew. And today we're doing our 9 of the NAG with our top tier, high-end Patreon supporters. We're surrounded by them right now, as you can see.
We need the cricket sound effect to kind of stream into this video. Yeah, I guess they all had various commitments that ended up happening tonight. So we just ended up, well, we announced having a stream, so we may as well follow through with having the stream.
Oh, man, I was just logged in the stream as well as on my account, and I was totally freaking out thinking I was having an embolism or something. Everything's fine now. I figured it out. I'm not dying.
And with your Patreon support, we can get Nate the mental health that he needs.
So, you know, basically we're going to mine the chat for discussion topics. And there's a couple things. Like, I definitely wanted to cover, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, we did the Deadliest Dagger Fighter, me and Ted. And we totally botched some of the feats, like the sharpshooter feat, which doesn't work with thrown weapons. It only really works with crossbows and bows, long bows and short bows. And boy, did we take a beating in the comments on that one. So, but I will add one thing. You change daggers to darts and it completely works. The damage is actually the same and everything.
You can make fucking either Tor from Magic the Gathering or who is the guy from Baldur's Gate, the dart thrower in Baldur's Gate? Like, you remember the first Baldur's Gate? Like, one of the options you could say to him was, "Darts? What are you, an idiot?" If you remember that guy or not.
Baldur's Gate was a very long time ago, sir. I don't remember.
If anybody over in the comments has that name, I'm gonna be scoping out looking for it just so I can bring that back.
Besides Minsk and Boo and the insane, chaotic neutral wizard, I don't really remember much of the characters there.
It's funny. I never played that game. Everything I remember is from you guys. I remember the dart thrower. I don't know his name. Just you guys mentioned him. Mince, Boo, and Norbert.
Who was Norbert?
He was just an annoying NPC that everybody wanted to murder.
Wasn't it Nuber? Wasn't that Nuber?
It might be.
OBER, I believe, was the really annoying, obnoxious NPC.
I am going back 20 years, relying on secondhand information. So there is that. Also, this coming week we did a Spear Fighter character build, and you know we were remiss in the fact that we never mentioned the monk in any of those builds, because you could totally work the monk in without a problem.
Absolutely, because the spear is a monk weapon.
Yeah, so, and you know,
it's the best monk weapon because you can start out with it being a D8 weapon in your first few, because you can flurry of blows with it in your first few levels. So, like, the spear is the absolute most superior monk weapon in early levels. And I had somebody put in the chat that Zal, the fastest dart thrower on the Sword Coast, might be at Zal, Z-A-L. So we can have arguments in the comment section or not, whether that's actually accurate, but I'll go with that for now, for lack of better ideas.
I cannot prove or dispute this unless I go to the Googles, and then I can totally prove or disprove this.
It is true. We do have the technology.
So I want to throw out a thank you to all you guys that watch our videos and hang out with us in Ted's basement, or, well, in this case, Ted's basement, my basement, Ryan's place, and Nate's place. But you know, we hit kind of a milestone last month, and it was pretty freaking impressive. We did almost 430,000 views in 1 month. My God, you guys consume a lot of Nerdarchy. How can you stand us? I can't even stand us that much.
Back to that mental health thing. Maybe you guys need a little therapy. But no, thank you everyone for watching. It's awesome. We've had like a massive bump toward the end of November as far as subscribers, so that's really cool, and we appreciate that. So thank not only our Patreon supporters, but just you guys who just watch our videos incessantly, which is awesome. So I appreciate that.
We also talked about in our weekly wrap, we want to, we're coming up on a milestone. So we're like, what should we do for these milestones that we hit? Like, 25K is kind of a big deal. Like, then we're eventually going to have 50K, 75K, 100K. What can we do? I mean, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we are giving away a cabin on a Comic-Con cruise. I don't know what we're going to do to top that, but by the way, we're giving that away very soon.
Yes, it's happening. Oh, so I guess I can put in the thing too that we're winding down like in the last 8 to 10 hours, maybe less than 10, on the Goblin, the Cringe Who Stole Father's Winter's Day T-shirt. It's or ugly Christmas sweater shirt. So it's available as a hoodie, a long sleeve shirt, and a T-shirt. So I'm going to throw that link into the comment section as well, real quick.
So I will mention that today we've managed to actually post our first full weekend's worth of articles. So we've actually done an article for 7 days in a row. So kind of new ground for us. So hopefully I can kind of keep this trend going.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of new writers come on, which is kind of cool. So I see one of you guys just pulled, I believe Ryan, you just pulled a question from the chat. What is the action economy when you change weapons? Can you say swap from bow to sword, then attack on the same turn? So I believe what it is you can draw one weapon and attack with it on the same round. So I believe you would have to drop the bow, free action, and then you could draw and attack with the sword. Yeah. But your bow's on the ground. That's my understanding.
So, but you could have shot with the bow, then went to the sword because it's just number of attacks, not necessarily attacks with the same weapon.
If you're high enough level that you have multiple attacks, yes, that would be allowed. Depending upon your DM, they're gonna allow you to do whatever you're gonna do with the bow. But rules as written, you would have to drop the bow to be able to draw your sword because you only get one free interact with an object.
Yeah. Now, if you have the 2-weapon fight, you could draw 2 weapons in the round, so you could totally do the Braveheart thing of like where he just swaps all these weapons in the span of 6 seconds. So William Wallace probably had the 2-weapon fighting feat, at least as played by crazy ass Mel Gibson.
Now I will say, like, an addendum to that is if you have a bow, you fire it, you can still keep it in your left hand, draw a sword, and probably attack with it as long as you already had the bow out and readied. I guess you technically don't have to drop it unless you're drawing a greatsword.
Now, what about using for a bonus action? Can you do anything with that bonus action, such as draw a weapon with it, or is it just... You understand what I'm getting at? So you got the free action, you got the free interact with drawing the weapon, or setting the weapon back.
Nate, how dare you ask me questions I don't know the answer to on our own stream?
If you have nothing else to do with your bonus action, I would totally allow you to
stash your weapon, draw your sword, and attack with it.
If you can do something as a free action, once a round, and you've got nothing else to do with your bonus action, absolutely, I'd allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head if you can interact with an object as a bonus action. And my PHP is so far away.
I think bonus actions are a very specific class of actions. Like something has to be called a bonus to be so, and stowing a weapon, to the best of my knowledge, isn't really listed as like what a bonus action is kind of denoted in very specific terms.
Yeah, I kind of feel it's like that as well. And the other thing too is with 5th edition, unlike previous editions, like if this was 3rd edition, there would be a list of this is what you can do with this type of action, and it would be very specific and everything's called out. Where 5th edition is kind of like there's a lot. It's very rules light, but there's a lot of nuance that you have to always kind of look for. And I find it even after playing it for a couple of years, there's still things that pop up that are, just because it's worded a specific way. But I think that was, you know, very intentional and from the designer's standpoint.
Fury in the way that they're handled or phrased that are that can throw you off. Even a few years into the and many hours of gaming 5th edition off ourselves.
I think they're just trying to, you know, make sure that the power is still in the hands of the DM, and you know, in those cases, it's like, all right, you make the call. I'm not getting into the nitty gritty. I'm not caring about those kind of particulars. You want to allow it into your game, great. You don't, fine. You know, when you run, you make the call.
So Omanir says interacting with inventory is a bonus action. Wow, that's a very video gamey way to write that too. It's all good though. It's all cool, man. Also, someone asked, has any of you played in a game where you've GM'd the Mystic playtest class? And I haven't. I don't believe you guys have either.
What was the question?
I played a Mystic. Sorry, go ahead. Read the question now.
All right. So the question was, have any of you played in a game you've GM'd that the Mystic playtest class for the Mystic playtest class?
No, we haven't done much with the Mystic. I mean, it's just a few levels. It's not enough to really, you know, warrant much.
I played a Mystic in the Nerdarchy Saves the World game that Scott ran.
Right.
And that's the only time I've played it. Otherwise,
so you've had the most experience. How'd you feel about it? How it ran for that?
It was interesting. It was definitely off the standard of the wizard spellcaster or monk kind of feel to it. But I felt the powers were useful for the few levels. I only got to play the 5 levels, but I thought at the time they were useful. And again, like I said, it was kind of weird not having that kind of being able to blast certain powers out. But I still was usable. It was still useful in combat. It didn't feel like out of touch or underpowered. It's just it's a little off. It's just a stranger way of playing the game, I think, when you have a Mystic, which is appropriate since they're kind of strange.
So the problem, it's not a great case study because when playing modern Dungeons and Dragons, the thing we learned very early on is the best way to play modern Dungeons and Dragons is grab a gun. Like that's what it really encourages you to do.
And grenades. That was the most useful thing, was to just throw grenades around.
Right. Everybody becomes a pyro.
Yeah.
So we got another question here if you guys want to field that.
From Omanir, I see. So I am attempting to run a world-spanning campaign, but as we approach level 8, I'm struggling to keep the player characters together. Any advice?
Well, I would look at that as what is their obstacle? What is their quest? As they get higher levels, they have the ability to work on side quests and things, and that should be allowed. But I would say you have that done in downtime and in shortened, structured things, but they all should be working together on some overarching storyline so that they are kept together, so they are continuing to move a major plot forward.
All right, I would say if they haven't done a session 0, you might want to go back and even if you just individually talk with the different players about what their character goals are, what they'd like to see in the game, and kind of see where they're going, and kind of talk with them about how they could move forward with those characters. And then I try and wrap everything together. If you haven't done session 0, which I guess if you're at level 8 and you're kind of struggling to keep the characters together, you might not have done that. So I would say go back to that.
You got to kind of Street Fighter 2 this a little bit. So if you look at the setup for Street Fighter 2, everyone had animosity towards M. Bison, right? So they had a centralized villain, and you could make the entire cast of Street Fighter an adventuring party. Like any number of them had some sort of reasons to have a grudge against M. Bison. So you kind of have to figure out what is your M. Bison in your campaign world. Can you make many of the conflicts that the characters have or issues that the characters have an M. Bison to it?
I often find the biggest problem with trying to like plan this kind of campaign out, especially early on. If it's impossible if you can't get your players to buy in, right? They have to know what your world spanning campaign's about and agree to it. Otherwise, you're going to get what you got essentially. And there could be different reasons for it. It could be because the GM just isn't clear enough, or it could be that they just don't want to play it. Like it could be either of those, and any number of other things. And sometimes maybe early on they're into it and then they start losing interest. So as Nate said, you could revisit with like a session 0 type session. It doesn't have to be a full session. It could even be just the beginning or the end of one of your playing sessions to just touch base with everybody and get their feedback. For years, I would always like call my players after we game just to talk about the game. And I would do that because I would want to want to see where they were at with it, and if they were still enjoying the game, if they were getting what they wanted out of the game. And I found it really helpful, and I think it's probably even easier to do that nowadays with all the social media stuff we have and all the ways we have of interacting with our players.
I ran my game last night for these guys, and I still, hey, what did you guys think of the game? What did you like? What didn't you like? I'm always trying to level up my DMing experience. I'm always trying to seek out better routes and how can I better prepare this. So we have on Facebook, we have a chat message group for just the game, and that's where we communicate when the game is going to happen, when anything has an issue, and people can talk about, all right, this is what I like, this is what I didn't like. And it's a great way to keep everybody on the same page, both in and out of game.
So apparently we almost got one of someone's players murdered. You're welcome. They used one of our monster BFFs, the Will-O-Wisp with the shambling mound. And what did he say? Insta-gibbed is what nearly happened?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to think about what the intent of the encounter is going into it when you're designing it. Like, is this the encounter that you want to be moderately difficult to your players, or do you want this to be like a stress test? Is it significant enough that you want to maybe put some lives on the line here on this encounter, and kind of go from there when you're playing it? Like, how likely is this to maybe result in a PC death, and that you kind of have to backtrack from there of whether you want that to be a possibility in your game? And then sometimes the dice just hate your players.
It's good to kill a player now and again, because then they know you're not effing around, man. Now, you know what? There's got to be some threat and risk when you're gaming. Otherwise, it gets boring. And I also want to actually circle back around to what Ted was saying about, how we still talk about our games. And, we actually were talking a little bit before other people jumped into the Hangout, and I kind of got derailed on my chain of thought. But Ted actually did something in this game and introduced new characters that kind of circles back to like our first session in this campaign and my character's backstory, which, I play a dwarf whose clan always sends someone out into the world each generation to acquire new arcane information. Well, he actually introduced an NPC that happens to be a dwarven female with new mystical information that I had never even considered. And now I want to do something that I rarely ever do in the tabletop role-playing games. I want to pursue a romantic interest in this character, but my character is actually not really motivated by romance as much as duty. So he wants to try and work it so he can bring back the secret of tattoo magic to Clan Blackiron.
So he's just using her is really what like basically there's the dwarven version of he's just not that into you is what's going to happen. Is that what's going down? Sorry, lady, he's not. He's just using you for your mystical arcane secrets.
You're totally misreading it. He's not into her for her body. He's into her for those mystical secrets.
No, I was going to say that. He's into her mind. It's not a bad thing.
A pirate game, is that even a thing, Liam? So as Liam Ruff asked if we've tried to run a pirate game, and I don't think we have. We've all had characters go on boats, but I don't think we've actually done anything that I would say was nautical in nature. It's always been.
So, my favorite band is Nautical by Nature. Just kidding. But I have played a couple of sessions of Pathfinder's Skull and Shackles. It's just unfortunately the group disintegrated, so that didn't hold.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, like timing was tough, and then at a certain point,
you don't mean literally.
Well, one of the people did pass away, so that happened.
Oh.
So that was shitty. So unfortunately, mortality does put a damper on gaming, so that sucks. But yeah, so there was that. But I would also point out that our Spelljammer game, like that's pretty close to a a pirate campaign or a high seas adventure. It just happens to be in space.
So the high seas definitely offers a challenge to the typical norm of running around on dry land. So we haven't actually done that, but it does present new challenges. It does present things in a different way. It is something that I've contemplated several times of either running or wanting to play, but never actually managed to see it happen.
Yeah, and again, like if we had enough player buy-in to want to play that game, I mean, I'd be absolutely down for it, but you kind of need everybody else to say, "Yep, that's the game I want to play."
I don't think for our group anyway. Our group is pretty open to playing whatever. Just know GM has come in and said, "Hey, let's play." Let's play a pirate game. So it really hasn't happened in our game yet, but we would absolutely do that or whatever. I feel like we have a group that's pretty willing to play pretty much any kind of game almost.
Any kind of game someone else is willing to run.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but sometimes too, as the dungeon master, you get this urge to run this itch to write the right material for this one kind of trope, and if everybody else is on board, then that's more the better. Like sometimes I want to run a gritty sort of noir fantasy game or something like that. Like I have a concept for a game. It's just a matter of freeing up table time because there's usually 3 other games going on, so it's kind of hard. Got a slew of questions coming in here.
So I guess we'll go. Just take this one first. The Zero Balancer question. What about oversized weapons with strength required? Then you have a more balance in line with Dex based on character or their strength high enough to wield 2-handed weapons in one hand. Yeah, that's really not going to happen too much. I've seen so far since playing 5th edition, I've seen one character that I would probably allow them to try wielding a 2-handed weapon in one hand.
And that's Alan's character, right?
That is, and the only reason that that's even possible is because I don't worry about certain game balance issues, and I've given out a lot of ability bonuses. I think he actually rolled his stats and rolled really well, and then he kept increasing his strength.
So he has a 22 strength without any magic items on at 11th level.
He does, and I would totally let him swing a 2-handed weapon one-handed with disadvantage.
Well, I would even say that maybe you generate a feat because there was Monkey Grip in 3rd edition that let you use like a 2-handed sword in one hand. That was a thing. So I think at a certain strength requirement, maybe that's a feasible thing.
Yeah, and from the design of that, I believe it was designed to allow small creatures to use medium-sized weapons, not the large character to be using huge weapons, as it was done by many DMs.
Yeah,
that's typically what would happen. or you would have the medium character one-handing a greatsword and then having a shield in the other hand, or dual-wielding great swords, essentially.
Yeah, the only use I've ever seen of it was a medium-sized character just using weapons that were too big.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a question of leverage on whether or not a character could use a great sword one handed or something like that. I don't know if they're half ogre or something or a Goliath, maybe you could say, but or half giant in Dark Sun or something.
Right.
But if your hands, if you don't have the big hands, I don't see how you can be gripping the weapon.
It's kind of goofy. It is kind of goofy to do that. But maybe a feat or maybe like one of those like epic boon type of situation. You're this
Well,
crazy ass hero, and therefore you can do it.
Yeah. Aside from that, if a god's going to grant you some kind of power, then sure, why not? But otherwise, it starts to slide into looking a little too anime-ish for.
Well, yeah. So if you had like the build has a certain name, like I think the thing that the Goliath gets, like it's called a certain thing. You can kind of just rule that, yeah, creatures with that specific suite of abilities to have the advantage on strength checks and things like that, maybe they could one hand a greatsword.
Actually, Nate brought up the point that I was going to say. Maybe you want to run an anime-style game, right? And if that's the case, and you want your character running around with a Cloudbuster, then let it happen. You can just let it happen. It comes down to what does your group want to do? What does the group want to play? And when you guys decide as a group on certain things, then it's completely okay to just throw game balance or rules out the window, as long as everybody's on board and you're having fun. Who cares? Nate, you had grabbed a question over there. What do you got for us?
Yeah, let's see.
I take a stab at the name. I want to hear you try to pronounce the name.
Joa Barbosa.
Which sounds like an awesome pirate name. Just going to put it out there since we went with the pirate campaign earlier.
So how do you guys make low-level encounters that are fun and diverse? I always have these pretty interesting ideas for campaigns, but I never manage to get my games past second or third session.
So there's two issues here with this question. Number one, designing fun and unique encounters, and the other one is actually doing how do you get the campaign to keep going? And so I'm going to address the second part first. And there's two things to do to keep a campaign flowing. Number one, make sure you have party buy-in so that you're preparing a story that the characters and players want to do, as well as providing things in that game that are going to motivate those players. The second part, when it's designing encounters, number one, there's resources online that you can do to get encounters that are designed to be interesting and fun. And if you don't like the prepared stuff, one of the things that I like to do, I like to try and not necessarily challenge my players, but I like to try and trick them a little bit. I don't want them knowing exactly what they're fighting when they're fighting. So I'm fond of just taking something right out of the book and reskinning it. You describe it differently, and all right, they're fighting such and such, but they don't know what it is. They don't know what its powers are. So the typical tropes of, well, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years. I know what that does. I know what that is. Well, now you don't, because you might be able to figure it out by the end of the encounter, but at the onset, you don't. And therefore, you get to have fun and play around with it. And like Dave was totally floored with one of the encounters that I did this weekend. And he was like, that was amazing. It was perfect, Ed.
I'm just thinking right now, okay, so kobolds, for example, they do trap laying and they've got their layers. So just make the kobold spiders instead, change around a little bit about them and make their traps like webbing themed. And bam, you have a creature that's weak enough to kill at low levels, but isn't just a kobold. Or another short humanoid that looks like a lizard thing, like something that just, like Ted's saying, just like a total reskin of it with, you can even have it open to kobold and just describe it as a spider.
So I'm going to go a little left turn here and suggest that they Garibee their game. Like if your games, you have a timeline of about 3 sessions, why start at low levels? Maybe just because maybe your players are bored with the low levels encounters. Why don't you just start in the middle, 5th, 6th level, 8th level? It's going to run 3 games. run something challenging at those three sessions, because you know your players aren't going to be around for a future campaign. So why bother at that point? Just maximize the fun, and maybe accidentally you have a long running game because inadvertently they're having too much fun with these powerful characters as opposed to playing the low levels.
Going off of that, I'll touch on what Scott Garibay would say, and he thinks anything below 10th level, that's just not enough. He wants to get into the meat of what a character or a class can do, so he likes to start at 10th level, and his whole philosophy is 3, 5, 7. So run a story arc that's going to fit within the player's interest level or attention span. There you go. So if they're not able to stay attached for more than 3 sessions, do it. And as Ryan said, put them at the level that is going to be most interesting to them. So, yeah.
I inadvertently started doing that with a game. Like, for what I don't know how it came about, but like basically 3 years ago, I guess, we decided to run a New Year or a Thanksgiving Eve game. We're like, we're nerds. We don't really party or drink. So what do you do on one of the biggest party days of the year?
Drink for yourself. I mean, speak for yourself, Dave.
So we decided to throw some funny shaped dice, and I really expected it to be a one shot and not really do it again. So I'm like, all right, well, you guys want to do this? And I think we started at like 10th level or something. And then the next time we played, Mark wanted to change his character up, and he really just wanted to access a single ability that was like one level higher than I was going to jump them to. So I was like, whatever, do it. And so, we play this game, and we've played 3 sessions. You guys were what, 17th level last time? And then the next time we play, they'll be 20, and then we'll retire those characters. And if we're still playing it, we'll do it. We'll start over with different characters.
Yes.
So, but the thing is, like, I wonder why you're only getting to 2 or 3 sessions, like, because you're asking about fun and interesting encounters, or fun encounters for low level players, and you say you have interesting ideas, but why are your campaigns not going beyond 2 or 3 sessions? Like, there's more information that we kind of need, and maybe you need. Maybe you just need to have a conversation with your players to figure out what they're trying to get out of the game, and they're just not getting it. A lot of times the DM and the players will show up and just play the game, but they don't really talk about anything, and they don't like plan anything out or figure anything out. And I know, because we've played that way for umpteen different years. So if you want to have a campaign that's going to last, my advice is talk to your players and find out what everybody wants to get out of it, and then you can also put forth what you want to get out of it as well.
And if you're
and also, well, I was just going to say that there's just not everybody prioritizes gaming as their #1 thing to do. Some people just have different priorities. Yeah, that's crazy talk, right? So like, I have a game that I like making it to when I can, but I'm kind of also ambivalent of like, well, I already have 2 to 3 campaigns that are going on. So if I don't make this other one, like the night that the next session is happening, I also have some friends that are having a bonfire party and stuff. And like, well, hanging around the bonfire like early winter sounds really cool too. So it's a toss up, and I'll probably go to this bonfire rather than gaming, because I have the other campaigns that I pointedly make time for. And it's a trade-off.
So I would say if you've gone through all of these things and you're still having a bit of issue, we do take GM 911, so you can send us an email, nerdarchy@gmail.com, and give us the information about why you feel that you're having these hiccups. You've tried talking to the players, you've tried these different things to make the encounters better. If you give us more detail than the quick and dirty, we should be able to hopefully help you out.
Real quick, I want to say thanks to Adam for coming and not making us do the 9 of the NAG without any of the 9.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, I did dress formal for the occasion.
He's got it. He's ready.
So actually, I was really liking the interactions between you and the chat. So I would actually probably defer the majority of the time to continuing with that action. I think that's great to get some live action answers from the fellow Nerdarchy followers.
Cool. One of the things I did want to bring up, though, that was actually kind of inspired by our last night of the NAG by Adam. And, when, I guess I had like asked him about something and he's like, well, I'm not a GM, I'm just a player. Well, although we make a big deal about GMing and GMs, this game doesn't really work without players. And here's the deal, right? You can have a mediocre and even a bad GM running a game and still have fun if you have fun players to play with. It may get a little chuckle fuckery, but you can still have a good game and you can still have fun. But if you can have the best DM in the world, but you don't have any good players, that game's going to tank. There's nothing you can do about it. It cannot be saved. Not all the paddles in the world will bring that sucker back.
Yeah, we had a game way back when, and the DM was reading out of a module, and like it wasn't clicking with the group, and it was probably a larger group than it should have been going. There wasn't a session 0, and the first NPC that was introduced was something that's like, oh yeah, half the party would want to kind of kill that character, and it would end everything that was pre-written. So it's like, well, what's going to happen here? So they had to deal with the DM saying you can't do that, but the players still had fun. They still role played with each other, and it was still an enjoyable game. We didn't continue with that particular campaign because it wasn't working. We kind of revoked the DM's license at that point in time until he got better. But it was definitely something that has stood out in our memories.
Yeah, unfortunately too, like that DM got a very immature Nerdarchy because it's going back.
He got pre Nerdarchy, and like not that we're that mature now, but could you imagine before then? I mean, holy fuck. So, yeah,
those guys are straight up dicks. Pretty much.
It was like 15 years ago, if not more than that. So we are going back quite a ways.
Did we kick him out of the chair, or was that a different GM?
I think that was the one we actually kicked him. We kicked him out of the chair before the night was over, and it's like, sorry, man.
Now, I will say, having more experience and being older and wiser now, that was probably not a good way to handle the situation.
No.
And I would now encourage every player to try GMing, no matter how bad you are, because you know what? Matter of fact, there's probably somebody worse, and the only way to get better is by playing the game and practicing.
Although, in our defense, I quote, like he would read the flavor text, and he would be like, the PCs see, oh, that's you guys, and he's like would read, then go on to read like the flavor box text. So that was, like. Yeah, don't read every word. You kind of have to. It's almost like following a teleprompter. Just make some bullet points, and that's good advice for running modules.
That being said, though, we have classic moments that we still laugh about because of that stuff. It's the really bad shit that gets messed up that really you laugh the longest for years and years later. So you just got to roll with it.
Do you have some examples of that? Of the what you were just speaking to?
Of the bad stuff?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have as many as we would like to, because usually there was like 2 people that would always be, and this is actually one of the problems that's common in many groups, is you have 1 or 2 people that are always relegated to running the game, and none of the players are really were never really open to run. Now, I feel like in this day and age, there's less of that, just because there's so much information out there, and it's so much easier for a new player to access YouTube videos, Twitch streams, Acquisitions Inc., Provokers, Gray Force, like all this stuff that they can bring in. So when they start running the game, they're so much further ahead than we ever were.
Yeah, that's true.
I
But
have.
it also, like, not everybody wants to do the work of GMing. Like, that's out and out, just a thing. But go ahead, Nate.
All right, someone who tried to GM and Psycho. All right. So remember that when we were getting killed by rare rats in a tunnel, and I think all we had was like silverware knives, like butter knives that happened to be silver, is the only weapon I had on me. And I was playing that crazy necromancer that was talking to his skeleton puppet. And
Nib
yeah,
was his name.
Nebuchadnezzar, yeah, Nib.
Nib.
And he told me that I should go down the hallway and look left. So I did, and then everyone else was slain by a lightning bolt from one of the rare rat casters. I thought that was really funny, but it was also really messed up because the session was over. I think the whole thing was over because everyone else was dead.
The lone survivor.
Yes.
Oh,
So I really enjoyed that, even though, if I was one of the ones that died, and maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it, but I liked it.
Well, that was not quite a total a TPK or total party kill. We actually did have one where Dave was running a game, and we only had three players. And back in the day, we ran really late into the night, and the players, we just continued as long as everyone was still interested in playing. We kept playing. And
Yo, Ted. Basically, when we used to play, right, what D&D meant to us was dusk till dawn. That's how we did it.
Yeah, that was a kind of formula.
That needs to be
a
shirt. That has to be a shirt. I think I gotta make that shit.
But so we were so tired as the players that we weren't really connecting to the subtle or not so subtle clues that Dave was giving, and maybe they might have been blatant, but we went into an area we shouldn't have, and he totally wiped us out. And he's like, I told you guys, I warned you that this was not a good action. We're like, oh, I guess that campaign's over. So that was definitely a bad moment, but it's definitely was a teaching moment.
So there is a time when I don't even remember the circumstances around it, but it did lead to one of Ryan's character deaths. Matter of fact, Ryan was like the MVP of character deaths. In our gaming.
Number one.
But that being said, he was also, when he started gaming with us, he was 16. So I forget what happened, but for whatever reason, his Minotaur decided the best course of action was to charge a stone wall.
All right. Well, let's. Are you talking about the first Minotaur death?
This was the first Minotaur.
Okay.
His name was Minos. And the thing of it too, though, is like I also was kind of more used to ideas of comic books and popular fiction. Which popular fiction, a monstrous creature bursting through a wall like the Kool-Aid Man, like that's not an unreasonable thing to assume. I didn't really realize the abutting against like the approximation of real world physics that role-playing games have inherent of them, where like, yeah, a several feet thick wall is going to kill you if you try to bash through it. I was just like, well, I'm as strong as fuck Minotaur. So,
but he charged the wall, took damage, and basically, I guess he took his own charge damage. I did it or whatever. Who knows? It was like 20 years ago. But then he decided he probably just didn't hit the wall hard enough and did it again. So.
Well, you know what they say, right? As the saying goes, charge into the wall once, shame on me. Charge into the wall twice, my character's fucking dead. That's how the saying goes. Yeah. Well, no. So it wasn't the second ramming the wall that killed me. Then I had to go fight like a panther or something like that, like a low-ish level fight because my character was super tough, super beefy, but I had already beat myself within an inch of my life against a wall. So that made me not succeed, and I was killed by the monster ultimately.
So this brings us back around to what I consider bad DMing. Like a better DM probably would have sat down with that player and explained to him, like, your character would understand that this is not a good move. You shouldn't do this. And then if they persisted, maybe try and reiterate it after the first time. And they said they wanted to do it a second time. But that wasn't this DM back then. So,
you were just being a dick older brother is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I might even have said something along the lines. Yeah, maybe you need to hit it again. I don't know.
But back in that day, we were talking second edition, and it was other issues where, like, all right, you're expected to keep track of your own hit points. Camping out at night, there was no, oh yeah, you're full. You got back a small pittance of your hit points. So it was definitely a more lethal style game back then.
Yeah, you had to lean on that cleric for sure, because you got you got those resting hit points, which were like next to nothing. And well, second edition it was even less. Third edition they ratcheted it up and you got more back. But in second edition, it was even less. And come morning time, if you were injured, you're like coming back. You're coming back to the cleric like, may I have some more?
Solid freezing.
That was a great time to freeze.
Yeah, the best. Oh, so maybe Adam had mentioned that he had wanted to do his random character, hopefully for Calvary's game, that may be happening later on in the month. So we were gonna maybe do that random generating now. Is that what you were thinking, Adam?
Yeah, we should be doing the game in 2 weeks. Do you have the
18th? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, we can do that, or I mean, you can keep going if there's plenty of questions coming in through the chat. That's fine too. I just thought maybe this would give a chance to kind of get some insight from a panel of experts as far as the character goes.
I'm not proficient in that skill though.
Although I do give you props for the history checks that you complete, because I think every meeting of the NAG you have called up the name of some old character from a session of bygone days. I think the first one it was Ted's barbarian character, I think.
Yep, Raganthar.
Yeah, I am the keeper of the Nerdarchy lore.
Now listen, I don't know why the fuck these guys can't remember this shit. Right? I know why I can't remember it. Right? Late 80s, early 90s, they were a little rough for me. It was that time, it was back way when it was that time, we used to party and stuff. But these guys are all straight edge as fuck, and I don't know why their memories failed them. But I say we roll that character up, man, if you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, I have to keep bouncing back between the Unearthed Arcana because my printer basically crapped the bed. So, but I can bring up Dice Stream. That way it's it's locked in.
Okay, let's make that thing happen.
All right. So I think alignment is first, right? Yes, alignment, D6. That would be a 4.
Lawful neutral.
Lawful neutral. Perfect.
Ted, are you following along?
No, I just happen to,
remember
that that's the particular order.
Okay. Background is a D6. 3. Folk hero.
That's a good one.
It's also apparently popular in the group.
Oh wait, so
mostly folk.
Did you guys do the basic rules or the player's handbook on your background? I just did the D6, but I see there is the option for the D20.
I think we had done the D6, but
okay,
you can go with the D20 if you like.
Ah, that works. Folk hero sounds good. Proficiency. Let me see here. I got to figure out how to do this. Alternatively, for players who are comfortable defining a character's personality traits. All right, so I'll probably go into the player's handbook and then roll up the ideals, bonds, and flaws. Did you guys do that too? Just the roll up, or?
I have no idea what we did. We did it like 2-3 months ago.
I don't know. I don't think I defined my flaws, ideals, and bonds. I think I just skipped that section.
Okay.
I know I did because I'm bonded to Ryan.
Okay. All right, so maybe I'll come back to those. Roll up 4 proficiencies. This should be fun. 8, 16, 13. Let's see. So, history, intimidation, sleight of hand, and performance. So that's kind of all over the place.
Well, you got 2 on charisma.
Yeah.
Although you're stepping on Ryan's toes with history, though.
All right, class. This is where it gets fun, right? The class. D4.
There is
A 1. That would be a cleric. Score array, or yeah. D6. 3.
you have to actually look at the
16, 16, 12, 10, 8, 8.
well, there should be like a sidebar that you can look and see based on cleric where those things are going to go.
Okay, yeah. Wisdom, strength,
You got a decent stat array. You got a normal one, basically.
constitution, charisma, dex, and intelligence. So I'm not the brightest guy who's going to be on this adventure with you.
I should mention my character has a 6 intelligence.
Oh, okay.
So
Let's see.
I also got
I
one.
took the knowledge domain though. So
I also got one of those 6s, but I'm a halfling and I put it in strength and just made my guy like 80 years old.
Oh, perfect.
So you might want to reach out to Calvary and see if you want to play any of the new domains.
Okay, yeah. I was actually thinking of going with life just for the generic cleric is kind of what they call it, but I'll reach out to him though still.
You could go with grave because it's kind of, as we called it, life 2.0.
Oh yeah, that's right. What did you guys rename it though? Gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper, yeah. That's what I would call it.
are you the gatekeeper?
Calvary may already know your request because apparently he's taking a physics test, but he's also bouncing in and out of the stream as well. I don't know if that's going to help his grades or not.
Well, maybe he's getting some kind of physics help from our bizarre talking.
Yeah, from the stream. Maybe you can just copy and paste some of the questions to the stream and get some answers. Yeah.
All right,
Although
so,
I'd probably go with a solid Google instead, but what can you do?
all right, so
It all depends on who bounces in and out of the stream. Like if you get a Boris Stremlin in there, I think that guy knows everything about everything. And Mike Gould's pretty knowledgeable as well.
all right, so we have the spells. We have bless or cantrips, guidance, spare the dying.
Yeah, I didn't let the thing determine my spell allotment because you get to reset them every day. So I didn't really, because it's kind of, that's for like if you were to just do that, like randomly roll a character up and then go immediately play. But I figure like there's downtime, like characters probably take effective spells and things like that.
Okay, yeah, I have not actually played a cleric yet, so this will be something new. So I guess it's just the race then, right? I think that's all that's left.
The other thing to look at is the fact that like this is how you make a first level character, and we are much higher than first level characters. So
Is it level 15?
I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't have my character sheet on hand.
All right, I'll double check with Chris. I think it is level 15 though, just to be certain, but I'll double check. But the race, let's see.
Filipino.
Human.
Join the club.
Although getting the does he run the feet variant or?
I believe so.
Okay. So that's a plus. That's kind of a plus. So there we go. I guess we have the lawful neutral folk hero cleric. Solid wisdom and constitution. Charisma's pretty good. Intelligence, not so much. Well, there we go, though. So, I mean, if you guys want to field a question from the chat, it's a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, we can see what's popping over there.
Strength.
Yeah, Cavalry chimed in, level 15.
Okay.
That is funny.
That he's taking a physics test and on the stream at the same time. Maybe he's got split personalities. He just sends one to the test and one to hang out with us.
He just understands how important it is to DM and that job. Doing a little physics test, doing a little DM advice.
So we do have a
priorities.
Yeah.
we do have a question from our Kierwin. Says he's new to 5e and still DMing 2e, but he's encountered an issue where is it unusual for DMs to not allow feats?
I would say it all depends. Like, you can't really answer that because it just depends on your GM. I've only ever played with one person that said no human variants because they didn't want to deal with feats. I've seen it in different forums and chats where where people don't like the feats, they think they're overpowered, or whatever. So it's going to vary depending who you play with. But we tend to play with the same people, so we don't really have a large breadth to draw from. Like for us, we don't really care that much. We don't worry about game balance. And heck, if you like you said, you're coming from 2A, what's game balance? Like, that didn't even exist. See, Nate's laughing because he always plays spellcaster. It's like, if I can only survive until 5th level, then all of you guys can suck it.
Hey, stacking powers until you're godlike, that's totally balanced against the fighter's attacks.
So yeah, to answer your question, it's whatever the DM says, whichever DM you're working with. So if you don't like the way your DM plays, find another, or run the game yourself. They're kind of your options. Personally, I like, if I'm in a game and I'm not happy with it, but I kind of still want to stay with that group, I would probably opt to offer to GM, and this way it gives you a chance to kind of show the other players and even like the other GM how to run a game differently. So it's kind of, I don't know, gotta lead the way sometimes.
We've got a question from Oscar Hernandez. Is it good to allow healing magic to damage? Oh, the chat moved. Damage
undead.
The undead in 5e.
That's my fault. I made the chat move with my mind powers or typing things in.
So in previous editions of the game, healing essentially was a radiant source, and therefore it caused damage to the undead as it's trying to restore the body to the proper manner. I think it adds a complexity. If you want to allow it in your game, sure, but I think, especially with the cleric's ability to, always be able to have, all it takes is one slot of cure wounds at 1st level, and you've got the ability to use it at any level. You can really have a major undead destructor. So we actually had this kind of come up a little bit last night. We're like, no, it doesn't work that way in 5th edition. So do as you will in your game, but at least in my game, no, it doesn't work that way.
It does. The reason why it doesn't really work in 5th edition the way it did in previous edition, it just make the spellcasters in 5th edition are already very versatile. But that being said, like 3rd edition, when it did do damage, the cleric could always swap out for heal if he was a good cleric anyway, of that level. So I guess it's the same. It just depends on what kind of game you want to play. If you decide to do that, you just know that the cleric is going to be able to nuke your undead. But it might be a good way to siphon off his spell slots too. Make him waste them on skeletons and zombies.
Yeah, so we have a question regarding the ranger and it being overpowered from Jiao Iro, basically asking, do you think rangers are overpowered, specifically the hunter archetype? I've seen several rangers, and they seem to be consistently the greatest sources of damage at the table. I mean, the ranger compared to paladins can be really nasty with swapping out spells for smite. I mean, really, as a paladin, it's like you inadvertently sometimes cast things that aren't smites. So I think, especially against certain foes, the paladins are really nasty individual as well.
Having seen most of the classes in frequent play in the number of games that I've been in, I would actually agree with Ryan saying that paladins are the tops in damage dealing in this edition. At least for your martial characters. Once you actually get to higher level spells, that might be a different situation. Rangers, I actually felt once you get to a certain point, like their bottom drops out a little bit.
Yeah, they plateau at like the middling levels, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, the ranger, you're going to get a die 6, you're going to get a die 8 if you're the hunter archetype. Some of the other abilities, I know other players playing the ranger found to be lackluster, so they didn't really like them in comparison to when you're getting which one does the damage? Is that Colossal Slayer, Ted?
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's wounded, so I don't think so. I think this is the most balanced edition of the game with all the classes against each other. They just all have different areas where they can shine. The other thing too to remember with your ranger is they never have good armor classes. So, if you feel like they're running rampant in your game and just doing too much damage, attack them more often. They're actually one of the easier ones to shut down. In my game, I have just a champion fighter that consistently on the high end produces more damage, where my rangers do more of a higher medium damage. But those guys are rarely ever in the thick of things, and they stay relatively safe, where that champion fighter is always front and center and has probably been dropped them more than anybody else in the game. Matter of fact, Ted despairs when that player doesn't show up to the game, but because he's always afraid that he's going to be getting the shots that character was going to get.
There is no afraid. That is how it goes. When our big meaty dragonborn doesn't show up, I become the next punching bag. Because after me, we've got sorcerer and we got bard. If either of them are in the thick of it, they're going down faster because they have cruddier armor classes than the dude walking around in half plate.
And I think they also are very good at strategically casting shield behind the cleric spell as well.
Yes, that is
really good at that. I no, it's like my best cantrip actually.
It's very important.
And he always seems to have that spell slot open. Well, if it can't.
So with that, we ran our right around an hour. It's 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. We all have real jobs to go to in the morning. So I think it's probably about time for us to wrap it up. I want to thank Adam for coming in when he did, and Chris Calvary for showing up in the comments when he should be taking a physics test.
And really, we should thank Adam. Like we could have focused it more on him, but he wanted us to keep going with answering your guys' questions. So if you want to send a thanks to Adam, you certainly can, because he wanted us to be able to do that for you guys, for the community.
And we're just going to thank Chris Evans for being part of the NAG as well.
Yep, thanks, Chris.
He's kind of like our founding member as well, because he was the first.
I'm going to throw a thank you out to all our patrons. We can't do everything that we do without you guys. So,
absolutely, thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you. Yeah. So, and just real quick in closing, again, that Teespring campaign is winding down. So, if you like goblins, ugly Christmas sweaters, and RPGs, it's that t-shirt, hoodie, or long sleeve t-shirt is for you. And Ted will cough to endorse it.
Yeah. So with that, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. At the high point, we had 90-some people on here, which is pretty sweet. You guys all
Awesome.
have a fantastic night. And until next time, stay
Stay
nerdy.
nerdy.